What's up, you guys? All right, so in this video, I'm going to be going over Micron and kind of giving an update to what's happened to it and why the stock price has been dropping over the past couple of weeks. And I know a lot of YouTubers and analysts are writing about Micron and why they think that it is a bull trap, why they think it's a value trap, why they think it's a great buying opportunity, things like that. I'm going to kind of give my 2 cents on it and try to take a very hands off, like looking at both sides, weighing out the probability of both. Just to give you like a more well-rounded, informed opinion that will touch upon the pros and cons of Micron, assuming best and worst case scenarios. If you guys are new to my channel, my name's Dan. I am here leading the Millennial Investing YouTube channel, and with the goal to kind of just provide financial literacy and knowledge to people, so that way they can kind of get on their way to being financially secure over their life. And they don't have to worry about money. So without further ado, Micron. So Micron, full disclosure, I've been a Micron bull for a year and a half now. I made a video about it a while ago, giving a full breakdown. I linked to it to here. And in that video, I kind of explained like where I thought that the industry was going to be going. And sure enough, that seems to have all been kind of true. Not to toot my own horn, but that seems to be, it played out exactly how I described it would be in that video. And we are again at kind of a tipping point of, is the memory demand going to go up or down? But that video gives a more full breakdown on who Micron is as a company and what they're doing internally with their money. So today I'm just going to be giving an update for everybody, to just really kind of catch up. If you do know about Micron and you kind of want to just know what's been going on in the news recently, this video is for you. And if you know nothing about Micron, check out that other video and then come back to this one. If you guys have any other companies that you want me to discuss, throw it down in the comments, but let's jump into Micron. So Micron has been, kind of at the end of everybody's stick recently by getting beaten down by news from China, rumors that memory prices are going to be slashed over the next few months, and that their margins are going to drop because of it. And I'm kind of just going to look back and see exactly what we know and then what we don't know. So what we know, going on the pros list, is that we know that Micron has experienced, and Samsung and HP Hynix have all known memory demand has been going up, making the price go up, which makes all of their margins, rise. Micron sits around now like about a 47% margin rate, which compared to its peers that, are a little bit more diversified, or they're not as efficient at creating these semiconductors, blows them out of the water. In retrospect, Samsung, with the last earnings report, anticipates their memory demand is going to increase in 2019. While the growth is not as high as the growth was, say, this quarter last year, there is still growth. It's not a declining rate. It is still growing, which means there's still more demand than there is supply currently in that space, which means that prices should probably stay pretty stable, at least for the short term. A couple of years down the line, who knows? But at least for the short term, from what the other major semiconductors are saying, that they anticipate, demands to still be too high for their supply chain. So going on the list next, that Micron, it's benefiting from multiple growing industries right now. So, generically, it's just PCs, phones, and tablets that have seen memory. And, if you look at any Samsung or Apple device over the past few years, it has been tripling the amount of memory they had. So if you had a phone that's, 4 years old right now, it's sitting around between 1 and 2 gigs of RAM, but right now the newest ones are coming out with 6 and 8 gigs of RAM, and so that's just pouring money into Micron's pockets. And it's just because, applications now require more processing power. Everybody wants faster stuff. Everybody wants everything digital, and, RAM and storage are the ones that directly affect the end user the most. So that's why Micron's been able to ride that out in the conventional ways. But now the other industries that are growing have to do with AI. AI mainly focuses on using GPUs, which if you use a GPU, you have to get a specialized graphical memory that Micron creates, and that Micron is already creating the chipset for NVIDIA's new graphics card release. They did it with the previous 1000 series, but now they're also working on it for the 1100 series, and each graphics card is going to support between 8 and 16 gigs of RAM as far as rumors go, and that's about double what they were expecting from the previous generations. The highest graphics cards that you could get with graphics that weren't actually 2 graphics cards put into one was the GTX 1080 Ti overclocked edition, which I believe had 12. So, you know, memory is still bumping up and things still need it. So I don't see any shortage coming from that area. And especially with AI using these graphics cards in order to, you know, crunch down all these numbers, that is just going to create more demand for graphics cards and more demand for memory inherently because it's using Micron's memory. And then data storage, cloud storage, and data centers, all of these things are, you know, everybody's transitioning from, you know, physical memory down for like, you know, the big warehouses of data on customers and whatnot, and that's all going into the cloud. So like if you look at like, say, Microsoft's cloud over the past year, their revenue, and it's, you know, less than 2 years old, their revenue last quarter went up 98% year over year. And when you think about Microsoft making, you know, $20+ billion the second they start their cloud services, while Amazon and Google and, you know, Oracle and other big players already have such a, you know, vast data storage warehouse, that just means that the demand is only growing, and it's actually growing at a much faster rate than people expected because now everything's going on the cloud, and all of that data now needs to be stored and then analyzed, which all creates need for RAM and NAND. However, RAM is, you know, much more vital in that system. And then we have autonomous cars. Now, autonomous cars, whether you're super pro Tesla and, you know, all the Chinese automakers that are trying to make fully electric and autonomous cars, whether you think that that's actually going to be put in place over the next few years is, you know, kind of up in the air. In my opinion, I don't think we're going to be seeing autonomous cars in the next 5-10 years. I think maybe if autonomous vehicles are at the point where they're fully operational and they can communicate with their own cars and other cars around them, yeah, we'll see it kind of slowly work its way in over the next decade. But at least for the short term, I'm not really counting on a lot of growth from that area because I don't see that industry extremely taking off yet, just due to the limitations they have from hardware. They'll definitely put money into memory, but I'm not counting that as like one of the big spaces for Micron to make a lot of money from. A couple of other industries would have to be, you know, anything that I kind of touched upon it before, but like, you know, personal devices, they're growing, they're getting more intricate. So those are the industries I see kind of going in that direction and where Micron's going to get the majority of the money on, you know, from the foreseeable future. Another big point is kind of on the NAND side is that Micron is now officially selling, you know, in bulk the 3DX point storage devices that they created with Intel about, you know, a year or 2 years ago in development. Both Intel and Micron have, you know, ownership of this, but Micron has the majority of the patents, and Intel was kind of subcontracting them in order to get out the product. And those are going to be huge. They're supposed to be extremely fast in comparison to standard solid states, which is going to kind of combat, you know, demand for other things with M.2 drives and other kind of commodity-esque storage devices that are going to try to, you know, take away from solid state market share. This, assuming that it's not super overpriced in comparison, is going to be able to take up a lot of market share because it's going to provide that much extra performance for people per gigabyte. Another pro thing for Micron is that they have announced starting next month in their fiscal year 2019, they've announced a $10 billion share buyback program. And when you look at their market cap, you know, floating between 80 and $100 billion, being able to buy back, you know, anywhere from like 12 to 10% of their market share at once and put that back into the company is huge for all investors because that just ensures the fact that your EPS is going to go up, and that ensures that the company is going to be able to, you know, really hold on, and that insiders want, you know, ownership of their company back. They view that their company is going to be profitable. They view in the forthcoming years that it is extremely undervalued right now, and they're willing to stake a significant amount of cash on the line in order to buy back those shares at this current price. Kind of going along with that is that Micron isn't doing poor things financially. So, you know, whether you think that the RAM supply is going to be in high demand or not over the next few years, Micron is playing it safe and smart. And that is one of the things of why I like the company as, you know, a whole, not just as the product that they create. They have been paying down their debt aggressively with their free cash flow because I imagine that in Micron's mind, they know that if we hit a recession, all the semiconductors are going to get hammered, and they know that their profits are going to go either negative or, you know, their margins are going to shrink dramatically. So what they're doing is they're buying back shares cheap and they're paying off a lot of debt. So that way, even if their revenue gets cut dramatically, their price to earnings ratio is still going to be extremely low compared to their direct competitors. Compared to the industry, it's ridiculously low. But compared to, like, say, Samsung and SK Hynix, it's still anywhere from, half their level to, 1/3 their level. And so that's one of my favorite points about Micron. Now, so enough about all the pros. Let's go into the cons. A lot of people are fearful and they're thinking that, Micron, it's too cheap to be good, something's up. A lot of people are hesitant because they don't fully know the DRAM or the NAND industry, and they think that the music's going to stop and they're going to get stuck at the top and then it's going to come crashing down. So I'm going to look into why those people think that, and there are valid reasons. So looking at one, the China ban. So China ban, I talked about it in my last video here. There are certain memory companies in China that paid out, high-level developers and engineers from Micron to go and work for them, and then they started producing semiconductors that used Micron's patents because they knew them and they helped develop them, and then the Chinese companies went around and started to sue Micron for infringing on their patents, even though Micron has them dating back years prior to that company being in existence. So, it's a bit of an issue right now, and it's very hairy going on in the China space. That's most of the cons right now for Micron are relating to China, in my opinion. So currently they have been banned from selling certain specific RAM and NAND modules. They haven't given a full list of those products, but they stated in their last, press conference that because the fiscal quarter has already been going through, it's only going to impact about 1% of their annual revenue. Now, they only lost 1% of revenue because of all this, all of these issues that are going on with China, and who knows what way it's going to rule. But in my opinion, they haven't given enough insight as to what exact products they are. So I don't know as an investor how much of this, after this quarter, when things aren't already shipped out, how much is this going to, trickle down into, and how much is this going to take away from annual revenue going forward? So, if you look at, Micron's diversification, they get almost 50% of their profit and their revenue from China. And if you take out, say if they take out almost all of their products and you lose 35% of your revenue in China, that is a huge drop for the company. And, let alone 35% in China, say if it's 35% for the entire company, their extremely low valuation and their extremely high margins are going to get hit because now they're just not selling to one of their biggest customers for most of their products. So that's something that, whether you're bear or bull against Micron, you have to be looking at the next earnings report when they release their 10K and everything, and really seeing what is getting exactly ruled in with China, and we need an update on that. Whether you want to go out and buy the stock or whether you want to go and short the stock, you need to be careful, because what they say with that is going to directly determine how the stock plays out in the short term over the next 1 to 3 years. So that's something to really keep in mind, even if you're currently owning it like I am, or you're thinking about buying it because it just dropped and it has great valuations. That is something huge that needs to be thought of, because it can have large repercussions, or it can be swept under the rug and Micron can go back to being extremely profitable depending on what happens. So just make sure to look out for that. And, kind of going with this is competition in China. So there are companies, and this is kind of jump-started by the whole Chinese government, that the Chinese government really wants to focus on creating semiconductors and technology in China. And so obviously, if Micron gets a large amount of their revenue from China, all these competitors will directly affect Micron's revenue and could lead them to being less profitable in the future. And there's kind of two sides to this. One, creating a fab center for semiconductors takes a lot of time and a lot of money. It's not fully disclosed, because these companies don't have to be. It's not fully disclosed of how far along they are in, full automation and full, getting everything up to snuff. And so that's going to be a thing. That can either be that, okay, this is going to be an issue, this year, or this is going to be an issue 2 to 3 years from now, once, RAM modules might even change by then, and then that whole factory is going to need to be gutted and switched out to service, DDR5 instead of DDR4. And so it's really kind of hearsay as far as how big of an impact that's going to be. That's also assuming that all the contracts with Micron get broken and that the companies that try to replace them with the Chinese semiconductors have products that are just as good as Micron's and can sell them at a lower price. So it's going to be really difficult to tell before those factories are fully up and running how much of an impact that's going to be. It is possible that that's a huge drawback for Micron, but we need more information on that, and that's why a lot of the things on the con for Micron side are still, it's your perception of what you think is going to happen. From me looking at it and trying to be as unemotional as possible, I never want to get married to a stock, even if it served me well and made me a lot of money. I just see that these are big. We need more information. These are big ifs, and they're big ifs that could say make me completely sell in my position and then not even think about buying back Micron, regardless of how cheap it gets, until everything kind of gets settled out. But I wouldn't stretch too much on that, assuming obviously, don't have everything in Micron, but assuming it's a standard, position size in your portfolio, I don't think that that's a huge issue, at least in the short term. And I think that we're going to need to see out in the future really what that is. And I think the market's already pricing these two factors in as far as the pessimistic side. So I think the margin of risk as far as if these things go bad, I think at least 50% of that has already been priced in to the stock, judging by where it's currently selling at and then how much it's dropped since then. Since these have come out, it's dropped about 30 to 40% since this news has been put into circulation. So I think a lot of that's been priced in, and it's, it'll be interesting to see exactly what gets, brought to fruition in time. And then the last major con is that memory price starts to go down. So this ties directly into the competitors, and it also ties into if technology demand isn't as high as it is the past couple of years. And that the CEO of Micron, actually, on an interview with Mad Money, and I'll link to it down below, had an interesting topic on it. He said, yeah, well, if memory prices drop, and if NAND prices especially drop, all of that means is that more and more people are going to try to upgrade, whether they upgrade to solid state or they upgrade to DDR4. All it does is it allows Micron, because of their current position and being, the highest margin play in this space, they're going to be able to just take a lot of market share very quickly, because everybody's going to want to upgrade, because the prices have been so high for so long and everybody's going to want to go upgrade. So like if you have your own PC and finally memory prices drop by 40%, you're going to rush out and buy RAM and buy a lot of it, so that way once the market starts to go up again, you're not looking at paying $200 for 16 gigs of RAM, something completely astronomical. And so there's a good and a bad side to it. Like, yes, they will become less profitable if their price goes down, but they can kind of secure their footing in a much better light if the demand stays about the same. If the prices go down but the demand stays the same, it's fine. If the demand goes down, odds are the majority of the tech sector is going to go down, because if you upgrade technology, you need more DRAM and you need more NAND. And if you stop having demand in both of those, odds are companies like Apple, companies like Microsoft, HP, everything that builds devices that are using this, if they're not needing those devices, then they're probably not selling well, and that can lead to a lot of different issues. So again, that's kind of up in the air. It's more difficult to say that things are going to change 180 and go in the negative direction, but it's always a possibility. But just wait out the probability accordingly. So this isn't in everybody's forefront, but is a possibility over the next year or two to really keep in mind. And that kind of brings me back to my general opinion on what's going on with Micron right now. So as it stands, and this can change depending on any news that comes out with them relating to China or certain tariffs or anything like that, in my opinion, Micron is still a decent play. It is not as screaming buy as it was months ago when I made my first video, but it still isn't in a situation where I think it's overvalued by any means. And there's going to be a lot of bad press towards it. There's probably going to be a lot of fear selling and things like that. And if you're looking at Micron at the very long run, so like if you're looking to invest in something, for the next 5, 10 years, I don't see any reason, at least as of right now, to not go out and buy Micron. It seems to be going great. The management is very supportive of the company. They're buying back a huge amount of shares. The demand is only going to go up in the long run. Whether it happens, prior the next market correction or anything happens, that no one can time that. But in the future, people will need more RAM. That is something that you can pretty much guarantee. Every industry that converts into technology and uses more technology is going to use more RAM and more storage. That's just kind of the nature of the business. So you're pretty much playing on the commodity of technology growth. So if you think that technology is going to be in high demand later on, then you're betting on Micron doing well. And that's kind of my opinion on it. Again, these cons are definitely not something to just write off. And a lot of people, that are just blind bulls for it are saying like, oh, it's not going to happen. And no, never look at an investment like that. These are all possibilities, and you have to factor them into your risk reward. I personally don't think the risk is too high yet until we get further news. Yes, if the news comes out and it's negative, then the stock's going to plummet and I'll lose some money before I sell out. But it's not as pressing enough for me personally with my risk reward and how much of my portfolio it is. I don't really care until I know for a fact that things are going south. I've had a good run with Micron and things are only improving. And so I haven't been able to decide yet if this is just noise in the market or if it's actual fundamental change. And at least from the information I'm given right now, it's not fundamental. So I cannot knowingly sell out my position until I know that the fundamentals of the company and the status of the industry are changing. So that's kind of my overall opinion. Yes, I am not saying that Micron bears are, I'm not saying that they're idiots and I'm not saying they don't know what they're talking about. I'm just saying from my perception of everything, I do not think that the fear that's being put into the stock right now is completely justified. And so I'm still holding on to my shares. Again, I'm not buying any more just because, I've been selling off and then I rebought some when it dipped. And, I'm comfortable with the amount of money I have in Micron. But if any of these certain issues as far as demand and storage going straight down, Western Digital I think is positioned much worse than Micron is, which is why I really like Micron in comparison of that competitor. And so I can't really argue. Profits are going good. They have an amazing free cash flow right now, and the demands are so all signs are pointing to it doing well, other than the fact that people think it's been doing well for too long. It needs to come back down. And to me, that is too much of a speculation on, well, I think that demand's going to drop dramatically, even though all the numbers are saying that people are still in, high demand, low supply. So that's just kind of my 2 cents, guys. Let me know what you think down in the comments below. I want to know if you guys are buying Micron or if you guys are against Micron. And, we can go back and forth, throw it down in the comments, and I'll try to get back to everybody. Again, if you guys are new to my channel or if you've stuck around for this long, make sure to like and make sure to subscribe and hit that bell icon so you get updated. I'm going to try to pop out as many of these videos as possible, and I'll try to, impact you guys in the best way I possibly can. All right, guys, peace.